What's up, guys? The Roblox community has recently been debating two anime games, Blox Fruits and Sailor Peace. Some players are calling Sailor Peace a copy, while others are saying it might actually be more enjoyable than Blox Fruits itself. So in this video, we're going to compare both games fairly, without any bias, and break down why this debate is getting so much attention right now. Now, before we compare gameplay or combat, we need to understand something important. Why are people even comparing these two games in the first place? We all know that Blox Fruits has dominated the anime Roblox genre. It became one of the most popular games on the platform, shaping how almost every player experienced grinding and progression games. And whenever a new anime game shows up, players instantly start asking the same question: is this the next Blox Fruits killer? We've seen this pattern many times before. Hype builds up, comparisons start, and then most of those games fade away after a short time. But Sailor Peace is the latest game in that discussion. So let's start with one of the most important parts of every game, the early game experience. Both games begin in a very similar way. You spawn on a beginner island, and your first objective is simple: defeat mobs, gain levels, and unlock access to stronger areas. This progression system is the core foundation shared by both games. But the way each game presents that experience is where the differences start to appear. In Blox Fruits, players can choose between becoming a pirate or a marine, and each path starts in a different location. The starting islands also feel larger and more open, giving players more freedom to explore during the early stages of the game. And when it comes to traveling, Blox Fruits already introduces difficulty early on. In order to reach another island, you either need to swim carefully or buy a boat and sail across the ocean yourself. This makes the adventure feel bigger and more immersive, but at the same time, it also makes progression slower and more challenging for beginners. Meanwhile, Sailor Peace takes a much more direct and beginner-friendly approach. The starting area is smaller, more compact, and easier to navigate, making early progression feel faster and more straightforward for new players. And unlike Blox Fruits, traveling in Sailor Peace is much easier since players can simply use portals to move between areas instantly. You can already see the difference in difficulty between the two games just from this simple mechanic alone. Blox Fruits focuses more on adventure, exploration, and manual progression, while Sailor Peace focuses more on convenience, accessibility, and faster gameplay pacing. Next is the grinding system. If you're a Sailor Peace player trying out Blox Fruits, you might instantly feel that the game is way too grindy. And honestly, that's one of the reasons why some players quit early. Unlike Sailor Peace, this isn't the type of game where you can just go AFK and let your character level up automatically. In Blox Fruits, you have to do everything yourself. You control the farming, fight the enemies, and travel from island to island. But strangely enough, that's exactly what makes the experience unforgettable. Even players who already quit Blox Fruits for personal reasons still feel nostalgic when they remember those hard grinding days. Because the grinding itself created memories. The struggle of leveling up, finally getting a good fruit, surviving difficult quests, and slowly becoming stronger. And even if you already have a powerful fruit in Blox Fruits, it still doesn't guarantee easy farming. Some fruits are better for PvP, while others are better for grinding. So players actually need to think about builds, fighting styles, stats, and strategy. Meanwhile, in Sailor Peace, once you get a fighting style, you can simply AFK farm, while your character automatically attacks enemies and spams skills for you. Progression becomes easier and less demanding, since the game does most of the work. So if you don't enjoy grind-heavy games that require patience and attention, then Blox Fruits probably isn't for you. Next is the combat, or PvP mechanics. This is probably one of the most heated topics in the communities of Blox Fruits and Sailor Peace. And honestly, I understand why some players from the Sailor Peace community don't really like engaging in debates about which game has better PvP. According to them, Sailor Peace isn't mainly focused on PvP, and I actually agree with that. But if we're specifically talking about combat mechanics and PvP experience, then I'd personally say Blox Fruits does it better. If you're watching this video, try searching PvP highlights from both games on TikTok or YouTube. Compare the movement, combos, reactions, dodging, aim, and overall intensity of the fights. In my opinion, Blox Fruits has a more polished and competitive PvP system. The mechanics feel faster, smoother, and more skill-based, especially during high-level fights. Of course, I understand if some people disagree with me. Everyone has different preferences. But if we're basing it on combat depth and PvP mechanics alone, I'd give this category to Blox Fruits. Now, in terms of visuals and performance, I would say Sailor Piece has a huge advantage when it comes to accessibility. The game has simple yet clean effects that are very device-friendly. Even if you only have a mid-range or low-end phone, you can still enjoy the game smoothly without experiencing too much lag. And honestly, that's something I really like about Sailor Piece. It gives more Roblox players a chance to enjoy the game regardless of their device. The grinding feels smoother, the effects aren't overwhelming, the animations are easy on the eyes, and the gameplay remains playable even during intense moments. Meanwhile, Blox Fruits has heavier effects and larger visuals, especially during PvP fights and awakened fruit battles. Because of that, I honestly wouldn't recommend serious PvP in Blox Fruits if you're using a weak or mid-range device. You can still farm and play casually, but competitive PvP might be difficult because of frame drops and lag. But if you're a mobile player with a good device, then Blox Fruits becomes a completely different experience. So, to sum it all up, if you don't like grind-heavy games, don't have a strong device, or simply don't have the time to fully focus while playing, then Blox Fruits probably isn't for you. But if you enjoy casual anime games that don't require too much effort, while still letting you enjoy the journey, the effects, the grinding, and the overall experience, then Sailor Piece is a really good choice. And honestly, I don't understand why this even turned into such a huge debate in the first place. Both games are masterpieces in their own ways. Some people have their own personal reasons for choosing a game, and not everyone experiences games the same way. If you have a good PC or a strong mobile device, then yeah, you'll probably enjoy Blox Fruits much more comfortably. And honestly, respect to those mobile PvP players out there, because surviving PvP on mobile is actually insane. But for players with weaker devices, or for people who simply don't want to play in such a competitive and high-skill environment, Sailor Piece becomes a really good alternative. It's simpler, easier to play, more relaxing, and most of the progression relies more on grinding and luck rather than pure mechanical skill. Meanwhile, in Blox Fruits, if you're unlucky and don't get a good fruit early on, farming becomes harder, leveling feels slower, and sometimes you can't even defend yourself against bounty hunters. And maybe that's the real reason why this debate became so huge, because in the end, different players are simply looking for different experiences. Some people want intense PvP, skill-based combat, and challenging progression. Others just want to relax, grind peacefully, and enjoy the adventure without stressing too much. And at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with either of them. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this in the future, make sure to leave a like and subscribe so you won't miss our upcoming uploads.